Good evening readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf and welcome to another tag video. So I'm trying to keep up this stream of tags that's going on. I have to say, like talking about tag emotions and stuff last week, this week Roz has tagged me in something and instantly, like the pressure was there. Like I knew that she tagged me and then I forgot what she tagged me in and then I asked her and then she replied and then I read the questions and I was like, oh no, I've got to think of good answers to these questions and they're really hard. I mean, they're really good questions. But yeah, the pressure was on. So I've kind of eased it back by coming up with some fairly cop-out answers for some of them. So I do apologise in advance, but hopefully it will still be entertaining. So today we are going to be doing the Little Literary tag, which I like as a name for a tag, and it was created by Mark from his new channel Book Time with Elvis. And it's a good tag, it's some good questions. But yeah, I'm not maybe going to give them the most considered answers because I remembered at about 7:30, I think, or a little bit before, that it was Tag Tuesday. So there was a little bit of rush involved in the preparation of this tag, given that it's now just gone 8 o'clock. Anyway, let's get started on the questions. So, apparently, I didn't know this, but Tolkien once said that cellar door is the most beautiful expression in English. What do you think is the most beautiful word or phrase in English or in any language? I missed the bit where it said in any language, I forgot that. Yes, so my selection for English was in fact mellifluous, because the point of this is it's something that sounds really nice. It doesn't really matter what it means. Like cellar door doesn't mean anything particularly interesting, but it sounds lovely. Mellifluous sounds lovely and it means something that sounds lovely. So it kind of means like flowing like honey. And I always remember there's this line in Titus Andronicus where this young lady has just had a tongue cut out, you know, as happens in Shakespeare plays sometimes. And her dad is supposedly like violently grieving for the loss of his daughter's voice. But instead of just like saying, you know, this is awful, he's like, oh, her tongue, which was like some mellifluous bird. And, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But it's a brilliant speech. So yeah, I like that word, mellifluous. Phrase in any language. There's this phrase in a poem by, I think it's Rubén Darío, in Spanish, and it's "Y no hallo sino la palabra que huye," and it's like, it translates roughly to, and I find naught but the word that flees, and I just love that. The sound of it in Spanish, I didn't say it very well, and the meaning that it has, just this image of not like searching for a phrase, trying to put some words together but not being able to find it and just having it flee from you, naught but the word that flees. I love it. I think it's a really beautiful image. Question number 2 is also on the theme of like words and sounds and things. What word in English do you find the most amusing? And this is my opportunity. This is finally my opportunity to talk about that word scallydandling that Roz has gone and stolen, because I was the one that introduced that word to her, because I remember coming back to her and telling her this word and she being like, is that a real word? Do we think that's a real word? And essentially I was working in home care and I was looking after an elderly lady with quite marked dementia, but typically of people with this form of dementia, her memories of the past were a lot better, and going into her would be like kind of a balancing act of trying to manage quite unpredictable moods in the present day and trying to kind of unlock those memories in order to have a much more enjoyable day and help her to have a more enjoyable day and have a really nice conversation with her. And one time she was telling me about her childhood and her youth growing up in Brighton in the 1920s, roughly. She lived in a house really close to where I grew up, and she was talking about like the parties that they used to have in the 1920s and 1930s at her house and her parents' house, and the things that they used to do, and she was like, oh yeah, we used to go scallydandling about the town. And I came back and I was like, oh, she used this great word today, scallydandling about the town, to mean like going to all these different parties in Brighton in the 1920s, like, which is in itself a great image. I mean, she must have been quite young. I think she's talking about older people, or she was talking about later times. But a great image and also a great word. And then it just became a word that we would use for, you know, like, it's kind of like this energy and enthusiasm combined with it just sounds ridiculous. But yeah. So yeah, I like it as a word. It does entertain me, and I like that Roz has adopted it. So question number 3. Let me just unlock my tablet because that's where the questions are. Have you memorised any poems in full to whip out now and then to impress your friends? If so, which ones? Yes, at various stages I have memorised poems. I'm going to try now to recite one without, like, this is what I've got on my tablet. It's definitely not a poem. It's my mum's face. This is what I've got on the only notes I've got in front of me. I don't have it. I'm just going to try. And ones that I've memorised in the past, there was a short love poem by Shelley that I don't particularly like anymore, so we're going to try and ignore that one. Death Be Not Proud, but I was trying that before I started filming and I think I'll get lost halfway through. And Sonnet 116, which was once upon a time my favourite sonnet, less keen on it now, but I think it's the one I'm most likely to be able to get through. So, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment. Love's not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours or weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. Might be another couple of lines there. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. I'm confident I got everything apart from maybe a few like prepositions and stuff right, up until I think I missed a pair of lines because it didn't feel right. But yeah, that's the best I can do, basically. Next, who or what? Yeah, I won't be whipping them out to my friends anytime soon because I think most people would be like, you what? If you started just saying that, you know, in the staff room or something. But yeah, it's nice to know that my brain has managed to do that once or twice. It would be good if it was maybe better poems. I'm less keen on let me not blah, 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 because I don't agree with everything that it says anymore, I suppose. I think alteration is a part of love, if that makes sense. Death Be Not Proud, I would wish I could remember that one better because that poem means a lot more to me. Anyway, question number 4. Who or what do you consider to be an underrated or underappreciated author or book? Definitely my go-to answer for this one is always Rosamund Lehman. This is her book, A Note in Music. I did once review this back when I was a baby booktuber with a brand new channel. Her books are just absolutely phenomenal. Really stunning quality, characterization, really talking about very emotive issues, but capturing those with just great clarity of description. I really can't sing her praises enough, but I never really hear anybody else talking about her ever, apart from my mum, who also loves her. Yeah, so have you read any of Rosamund Lehman, and if so, what did you think? She's got quite a few different books, and every time I read one, I'm like, wow, yeah, really impressive writing. Question number 5. Which book do you consider to have the best or most memorable beginning? This is a cop-out answer, definitely, but he's asking best or most memorable, and it's definitely one of the best. And I think it is the most memorable because it's the one that leaps to mind, not just for me, but for so many other people. And it is, of course, Pride and Prejudice. And it's such a brilliant beginning because it starts with this, like, wit and the phrasing that's really memorable that people can recite and get to know, even if you don't know the book. People are familiar with, all I can think of let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment, which is not how Pride and Prejudice starts. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of large fortune must be in want of a wife. And then goes straight into this dialogue between Mr. and Mrs. Bennet that is really engaging, really conveys those characters straight away, and really sets the scene. Like, it plunges you into the action in that way. And I can't think of any other book that begins so well, that has stood the test of time so effectively, that the beginning still feels fresh and enduring and interesting. There's a lot of other books that I can remember the first line of, including a lot of other classic books, like There Was No Question of Going for a Walk That Day, All the Happy Families Are Alike, etc., but none that the whole of the first scene still carries that same weight and energy throughout. So yeah, it would be Pride and Prejudice. Getting the next one. Which book title best describes your life? So a long time ago now, I was in a charity shop and I came across a book, and it was like a children's picture book effectively, and I think it was like an old Ladybird book. I didn't buy it because at that time I was a student and I didn't have, like, I just felt like I couldn't justify it. Even though it was only a couple of pounds, and I kind of really wished that I had, because I was a student nurse at the time, and the title was like Nurse Tilly works night shifts or something like that. Nurse Tilly busy on the ward or something like that. And that title just summarizes my life perfectly. It's just, in a nutshell, it is my life. But I tried to Google it and I can't find this series. It's like, it was an old series. It's not something that would still be in print. It just happened to turn up in that charity shop and I should have bought it. I really should have bought it just for the novelty factor. But I didn't. So I asked my husband, what book do we have, or what book do you know that the title sums up my life? And he said, well, you'd have to substitute different objects, but the children's book, Where's My Hat, is very effective for you, because I'm constantly walking around saying, where's my glasses? Where's my phone? Where's my jacket? Where are my keys? Just all day long, all the time. So yeah, Where's My Hat? Even though I don't wear hats, but it's the most apt title that we could think of. Question number 7. What was the last book you read that led to a moistening of the eyes? That would be, as I mentioned last week, How to Treat People by Molly Case. I haven't finished it yet, but yeah, she's very good at the eye moistening effect. So yeah, undoubtedly that one. Question number 8. When it is time to shuffle off this mortal coil and go to that big library in the sky, what bookish or literary quote would you like to be engraved on your headstone? Yeah, I agree. Some people have said they don't really want a headstone. I would also like to be disposed of in the most ecologically viable way, as well as, like I've already spoken, that I would like to be an organ donor. So, a substantial amount of my body, I would hope would be in other places, or, medical science or something. I want to be useful, basically, after I die. But whatever's left of me, if it's getting buried or wherever it's getting put, possibly not a gravestone, but maybe like a little plaque on a tree, or like maybe a nice bench somewhere, or something like that, would be better for me, I think, than a cemetery. Like everyone says, I love going to cemeteries and reading old headstones. I think they're brilliant. What quote would I like is something I really struggled with, though, because, I mean, it feels so permanent. Like, if you put it on a headstone, people could be looking at it. I mean, I read headstones some of the time that are like 400, 500 years old. And most of the time, they just say, here lies such and such, wife of such and such. It would have to be short, and it would have to be a bit punchy. I couldn't really come up with anything in the time pressure allowed, that like half hour that I had thinking about what I would say for this tag. I couldn't really think of anything great. But the other poem that I memorised, that I couldn't remember now, Death Be Not Proud, I think just as a statement on your gravestone, Death Be Not Proud, it kind of sounds like Death, I'm coming for you, which, I don't believe in death as a physical being, but I think it would make people smile if they were walking around the graveyard reading gravestones. It would make them smile, and it would make them think, potentially. So yeah, I might go for that as an interim one until I come up with something better. Question number 9. If you wrote a book and didn't want to use your own name, what name would you choose as a suitable pen name? I agree with what Roz. I would probably want my own name to be on it, just because, done the effort, wrote the damn thing. But when I was younger, I really wanted to write books, and I always thought I would like a nice romantic pen name to obscure my identity, because anonymity and all of that. And I came up with the name. This is when I was maybe about 12 years old. I wanted my pen name to be something like Josephine Hope. So Josephine is my middle name, and Hope was the surname of, I think, my grandmother before she was married. Or my great-grandmother before she was married. So it was kind of like names that are connected to me, but not my own names. So I was going to be Josephine Hope, and then, if depending on the style of book, you use different styles of names, so it could be Joe Hope or Josie Hope or something like that. I don't know whether I would do that now, but yeah, that's the only pen name I've ever had lodged in my mind. And I obviously thought about it a lot, because I still remember it, over a decade later. Question number 10. Many literary characters have sidekicks or henchmen. Who would you choose to be your companion on your life's adventures? I think the key word here is adventures. Like, if you were just living a normal life, then you'd want somebody a bit like Anne Elliot or Eleanor Dashwood, who'd just be a really good friend. But if you're going on adventures, you need like a specific skill set is involved. So I was thinking about somebody like maybe Sam from The Lord of the Rings, because he would have your back in all sorts of circumstances. But there's something about his kind of level of devotion that is sometimes a little bit like you might need a little bit more space on your adventure. So I went for, in the end, had to go for Pantalaimon from Northern Lights. And it's kind of like, he's kind of only half of a character really, because he's Lyra's soul. But I've always really, really wanted to have a demon. And Pantalaimon's great. And he also like, he goes away from Lyra at times. Like they have their kind of separate lives, but they can also share so much. So I think it would be great to have a demon, and I would take Pantalaimon with me on adventures. So that is the little literary tag. Thank you very much to Roz for tagging me, and thank you to Mark for creating the tag. I'm not going to tag anyone, as I spoke about before. I was going to tag Hannah at Hannah's Books because she commented on Roz's that she wanted to do the tag. So I was about to tag Hannah, and then I went and I saw that she'd posted it an hour ago. So I just missed out on that opportunity. It's very frustrating. So anyway, good night, everyone. And it was nice talking to you. Take care.